Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here with some interesting tidbits from George Orwell's selected essays. We're going to take from his essay called Down the Mine and The Invention of Air by Stephen Johnson. We're going to start with The Invention of Air. And we go all the way to page 101, the Carboniferous Era. Now this is going to explain to us where coal came from, and then George Orwell is going to tell us about coal mining in his time. So let us depart. Embark. Now it starts out talking about a guy, Charles Brongniart, in 1877, a French paleontologist, who started digging in his fossil bed that's about 300 million years old. Now, to give you an idea, the dinosaurs died off 62 million years ago. So this is from a period even before the first dinosaurs, and long before the dinosaurs went extinct. Quote, many of the fossils that Brongniart uncovered shared a defining characteristic. Compared to their modern equivalents, they were massive. He discovered ferns the size of oak trees and flies as big as birds. In 1880, he unearthed his most startling find, a monster dragonfly with a wingspan of 63 centimeters. I don't know how big that is, probably 3 feet or something like that. Brongniart named it Meganeura in the paper he published about his discovery in 1894. Oh, I can cut that. Paleontologists worldwide soon discovered that giantism was a prevailing trend between 350 and 300 million years ago, a period now called the Carboniferous Era. So it's the Carboniferous Era when giantism prevailed that actually turns out to be the source of 90% of the coal that we have. The Carboniferous was populated by foot-long spiders and millipedes, and water scorpions the size of a small boy. The plant life was even more spectacular. Club mosses growing in the damp forests towered above the swampland below, reaching heights of 130 feet, 500 times taller than their modern descendants. Horsetails and rushes that now top out at around 4 feet regularly reached a height of a 5-story building. That's 50 or 60 feet. Early conifers sprouted leaves that were 3 feet long. Now, the planetary fad for giantism didn't last. The dinosaurs evolved immense body plans in the coming ages, of course, but by 250 million BC, the rest of the biosphere had largely retreated back to the scale we now see on Earth. So, the dinosaurs didn't develop their massive body plans because of this. That came later, their body plans. Everything had gone back to more normal size before the dinosaurs came in. Now, a hint as to why this happened. Quote, the respiratory systems of modern insects and reptiles wouldn't be able to generate enough energy to support a body plan that was 10 times their current size. And yet somehow the giants of the Carboniferous managed to thrive in that exaggerated state for 100 million years. Now, it turns out, and he goes into it in the next few paragraphs, that today our oxygen level in the atmosphere is around 20%, but during the Carboniferous era, it seems to have been around 35%. Now, if you know the difference between trying to run and keep your breath at sea level versus up high, 4,000 feet or 10,000, or if you're climbing Mount Everest, 20,000 or 25,000 feet. There's a major difference in your ability to catch your breath and keep your breath. Where I grew up, it was about 4,000 feet above sea level. We used to visit the California coast when I was a kid, and my dad always said, I love it down here in California. You can run on the beach and stuff, and it's so easy to keep your breath, and it's not like up where we live where the air is thinner. And as a kid, I didn't really appreciate it, but now I am able to see the difference climbing a mountain and stuff. The air gets thinner. Now, that's just a, not even a percentage change, it's just the volume of the amount of oxygen in the air that you're breathing. Imagine if you could double the amount of oxygen that you're bringing in. And oxygen, by the way, is the fuel for fire, right? Fires use it. Well, it's not the fuel, but fires require it. Not all fires, but fires, we know it, the grass fire, a wood fire burning. And oxygen is used in our cells, in metabolism, to make energy for us. Our brain burns 1/2 pound of sugar a day, and every bit of that that's burned has to be oxygen. It has to use oxygen. So imagine almost doubling the amount of oxygen available. All of a sudden, you can get great lumbering beasts and stuff with plenty of energy, all the energy they need. Nowadays, you would have to have some bizarre respiratory system to get enough energy to have a body that big, and it's possibly even not possible. So, interesting fact there. Now, the massive vegetation came about. This is what Stephen Johnson says. He says that this massive, enormous type of vegetation and so on, the megafauna, was not biodegradable, was not digestible. A structural integrity for the cell had evolved that nothing could eat. It was like nature had came up with plastic or something like that. And for a long, long time, this stuff was building up. And today, that's what we call coal. 90% of what we call coal, not all of it. There are other ways for coal to form, but it was this massive period where largely the matter that we think of as biodegradable wasn't biodegradable because it was a newly evolved thing. But eventually, it did become, now we take for granted that stuff's biodegradable, but when the coal was laid down, it wasn't so. Now, England happens to sit, it's even been called an island of coal, which is perhaps a little bit of an exaggeration. So now we're going to go to George Orwell's essay called Down the Mine. Our civilization is founded on coal more completely than one realizes until one stops to think about it. The machines that keep us alive and the machines that make the machines are all directly or indirectly dependent upon coal. Interesting point that he makes there, because today it's oil, but the machines that make the machines depend on coal. That's interesting. We couldn't even get the coal we need without using coal to make the machines that we use to get the coal. So that seems possibly slightly precarious, and that's how golden ages come to an end and dark ages follow, is because the precarious cultural or economic structure comes to an end. In the metabolism of the Western world, the coal miner is second in importance only to the man who plows the soil. Nowadays, that's not even true, because we couldn't plow the soil, and the fertilizers we put on the soil comes from oil. So oil is even more important than farming itself, because farming is dependent on oil today, just for the petrol to run the tractors and machinery and stuff, but also the fertilizers and stuff are made out of petroleum. So, even more true now, oil is more important than coal ever was in its time. But he says, because of this major importance, for this reason, the actual process by which coal is extracted is well worth watching, if you get the chance and are willing to take the trouble. Now we skip a little bit. The time to go to a coal mine is when the machines are roaring and the air is black with coal dust, and when you can actually see what the miners have to do. At those times, the place is like hell, or at any rate like my own mental picture of hell. Most of the things one imagines in hell are there. Heat, noise, confusion, darkness, foul air, and above all, unbearably cramped space. I don't see why hell would be cramped, but I guess if it's everything that's miserable, it would be, right?